The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in every state. Also get $20 for free when you sign up with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently Friday night, February 20th, around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time getting to the breakdown of the final match in Doha. You can break down that match in a few minutes. Before we get into the actual breakdown of the Fizz and Alcaraz match, a reminder that you can support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube. Also find the podcast on Spotify or Apple. So a couple ways to support the show. Once again, if you want the audio version only with editing that I do, you can check it out in audio format only, Spotify or Apple. But either way, like, subscribe on YouTube and leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store. A lot of great Tennis Gambling podcast merch that we have on the merch store. So we have shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, a lot of options there. Think you'll like the selection. So once again, check that out. We also have hats now, brand new item. So check that out as well. And a reminder, if you also want to check out other shows on the network in one easy location, download the SGPN app, free to download in the App Store, has all of our picks and podcasts. So check it out in one easy location in the free SGPN app. So moving on into the actual recap of what happened for the lock and dog picks for the semis in Doha. Overall, decent episode, not the best, not the worst. Ended up splitting. Did win the lock, though. We had Alcaraz team total over 12.5 at -120. Never in doubt, as Alcaraz won the first set in a breaker. And at that point, we were coasting. It was never in doubt as he won in straight sets. So either way, nice win there for the lock. And for the dog, the loss wasn't very close. We had Mensik to win the first set and the match. He did neither, as he ended up losing in straight sets. So either way, Mensik kind of no-showed in a, you can argue, letdown spot after beating Sinner. But either way, Fizz was solid, Mensik was not, and Fizz got the job done there pretty easily. But either way, point is Alcaraz got the job done for us, so picked up a split there for the lock and dog picks. Check in the comments section. I see Joe mentioning that the Alcaraz over keeps cashing. That's why we took it. So once again, we're going to keep riding that so far, and it's been working out. So either way, moving on to the recap, though, for Friday, not fully done yet. I know that the matches in Delray are not over yet. The match of the card, I guess, is still to take place, as Fritz is taking on Paul later on tonight. TN right now up a set in a break against Tiafoe in the second set. And for the actual Rio event, currently a rain delay, as Bousse is leading Berrettini 1-0 in the third set. But either way, there was a rain delay, and Tabilo is happening after that. So getting into the recap of the matches so far from Rio and Delray that finished already. So Capriva keeps the hot streak alive, beating James Cerundolo in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4. Echeverry, nice win against Faria, not an easy opponent who was serving very well, and Echeverry survived, winning in a breaker in the first set, and then he won 6-4 as he broke him at the end. Said a second ago, Bousse once again up 1-0 in the third set against Berrettini. For Delray, had a couple of close matches. Caboli ended up beating Wang in 3. Should have won in straight sets, blew a couple of match points there in the breaker, but either way, got the job done easily, 6-2 in the third set, so no harm, no foul. Kind of annoying, though, because I mentioned in the outright episode, even though he was in really bad form, I actually did like Caboli for this event. I did not take him, but I did mention it if you go back and listen to that episode. So Caboli making the semis actually doesn't surprise me too much, but I just didn't have it in me to actually take him, which I regret. But either way, nice win for him against Wang, so good job by him. Then we saw Korda, who ended up losing the first set to Ruud, came back and he won 6-2, 6-2 in the final two sets. Ruud, I don't know if he was injured or just fatigued, but he looked really, really sluggish in the last hour or so of the match. Korda played well, but it really felt like Ruud on the other side of the net kind of fell apart, and you saw Korda just jump in and take the two sets handily. So nice job by him to come back from a set down. But Ruud, once again, we didn't take him because on hard courts, not really interested for the cheap pricing. So either way, once again, nice job there by Korda. So once again, moving back into Doha for a second here, we had the exact same scoreline, just a little bit reversed for both matches. You had a breaker and a 6-4. Alcaraz beat Rublev 7-6, 6-4. It was competitive. Rublev did break him a couple of times. First set, though, was pretty on brand for most Rublev matches against Alcaraz, which is close but no cigar. So he had a couple of break points early in the first set, didn't convert. Then Alcaraz broke. Then Alcaraz ended up serving for the set, got broken. Then he broke Rublev back to go up 6-5. and then he got broken again. He had a set point, actually, did not convert, and then he coasted in the tie break 7-3. So Alcaraz didn't really do a great job closing that set as he ended up serving for the set twice, and he blew it both times. But either way, no harm, no foul. Got the job done there. Then Rublev had 2 break points early in the first game of the second set, did not convert. Alcaraz broke the following game, and then you saw Rublev come back briefly from 3-0 down as he won 3 straight games, but Alcaraz eventually did get the break and ended up holding to win. Had a couple of, or I should say, he did not hold to win. He was up a break, then he had 3 separate match points. He blew it, Rublev broke him, and then Alcaraz broke again to win the match. So Alcaraz served twice for the first set and once for the match, and he blew it every single time. So not exactly a clutch performance from Alcaraz, but he still was able to recover, and he was able to get the break to win the match in the end. But still not a great job by Alcaraz. I feel like he was pretty sloppy on some big points, but once again, no harm, no foul. Got the job done there in straight sets. Then you had Fils, who ended up beating Mensik in the same scoreline, but reverse 6-4, 7-6. So Fils had a net cord winner to get the break early in the first set, but it really felt like Mensik was just behind on the scorecard for the entire match. Once again, Fils had a chance at a double break, actually, early on in the first set. Didn't convert. Then you saw Mensik have a break point, didn't convert, and then Fils got the job done there without really any stress for the final couple games. Then Mensik had 3 breakpoint chances in the first return game of the second set. Didn't convert. Then Fils broke. Mensik finally broke back, and then you saw him get injured in the tie break. I don't know if he pulled the hammy or not, but either way, you could tell that he was definitely feeling, I'd say, the issues, and you saw that unfold as the tiebreak went on. But Fils got the job done there in straight sets. So for the actual stats here, I mean, Fils was better, simply put. Mensik did win 81% of his first serve points, but he only won 50% of the second serve points, where Fils ended up winning 9% or less on the first serve points, but 9% more on the second serve points. The real story, though, is the breakpoint chances. Fils ended up going, Fils broke a couple of times with really not much stress. But as for Mensik, he had to really fight for any break, and he only broke 1 time. So you're looking at the actual chances here. He was 1 for 7 on break points. Not exactly a great look there. But either way, Fils did break him a couple of times. But Mensik really just didn't look that great. It felt like the game plan for Fils was to keep the ball in play. Yes, he did occasionally move Mensik side to side, but it felt like he was mainly keeping the ball neutral and trying to dare Mensik to actually create something. And he was capitalizing on the errors that ended up happening. But for the breakpoints, because the source I was looking at was incorrect, Fils ended up going 2 for 5, so not amazing, not terrible, though, 40%. Mensik was 1 for 8. So he had chances, didn't convert, but once again, it felt like Mensik was just constantly behind. He got back to even, though, breaking back to actually make the second set competitive. But then his body fell apart after having the physical war against Sinner the day prior, and Fils got the job done there in straight sets. So not too much drama in Doha. A little bit of drama there in the Alcaraz sets because there were a bunch of breaks at the end. But I think nobody thought Rublev was going to win. We did like the over that got there, so no complaining. Fils, though, we got wrong. We thought Mensik would keep the momentum rolling. Thought Fils would feel a potential fatigue of playing 3 days in a row for the first time in basically 10 months, give or take. But it didn't happen, as Fils looked very good, and he's back into his first final since, I believe, Tokyo, about a year or so ago. So we'll see how he looks in the final against Alcaraz. We'll get into that match, though, in a few minutes. Before we get into the preview of the final in Doha, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Kalshi. It's a real money prediction market available in every state. Tons of trading options for your favorite sports. They also have other options besides sports like politics, entertainment, and even the weather. And if you are new to the platform, good sign-up deal courtesy of us. Get $20 when you sign up with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, code SGPN for free $20 at sign-up at Kalshi. We're also brought to you by Rebet, the #1 social sports betting casino out there, available in 35 plus states, including Texas and California. Plus, you get 100% purchase match up to $100 with the code SGPN at sign-up. That's Rebet, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of what happened on Friday. Time to move on into the title match taking place in Doha on Saturday. A reminder, this is the only title match taking place on Saturday. You have the semis going on for Rio and for, once again, Delray Beach. So keep an eye out for another episode coming out on Saturday covering the title matches in Delray and in Rio. But this is the only title match that is on the card for Saturday. So moving on into the preview of the final. So Alcaraz, of course, massive favorite, about minus 770, give or take. Fees around 5-1. For the over-under, I see 21.5 games. If you want to go for a bit of juice on the over, you can get 20.5, with the over being minus 130. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Alcaraz, plus 4.5 for Fees. Basically even in terms of the juice. And for the set spread, Alcaraz straight sets minus 215. Fees to an ace set is plus 160. The over 2.5 sets is plus 215. Over half a tie break is plus 148. No tie break is minus 195. Team total, I see the over 12.5 for Alcaraz at around minus 130 on the over. Under is even money. And for Fees, I see 8.5, with the over being minus 117, the under being minus 112. Now, for the head-to-head history, faced off 2 times. Both meetings were on clay. Alcaraz did win both of them. They did take place last year. And I will point out the meeting in Monte Carlo was very competitive, as Alcaraz did win in 3. Barcelona, not so much, as they faced off about a week later, and Alcaraz won 6-2, 6-4. So Alcaraz has had his number. Then again, that was on clay. This is on hard court. We know Alcaraz is arguably the best in the world at both. I'd argue Sinner maybe still on hard court, but after losing to Mensik and with Alcaraz being undefeated, and I believe 29 straight outdoor hard court matches, it's really tough to find many guys you would pick over him in this environment in Doha. Now, Fees has been quite good in the event. We saw him come back in Montpellier off the injury, and he won a couple matches, but eventually did lose to Felix, but showed up in Doha, or he showed up in Rotterdam, lost to de Minaur in the first round. No shame in that, as of course de Minaur won the event, so just a bad draw for him there. Showed up here, beat Majcik in 3, beat Hallis in straight sets with a breaker there in the second set, beat Lehechka handily, and beat Mensik in straight sets. Now, for Alcaraz, he ended up beating Rinderknech. It was not exactly the easiest, as there was a competitive tiebreak there in the second set. Got the job done, though, in straights. I saw him beat Royer in a match he should have lost the set in, because he was down, I believe, 5-2 in the second set. It was either 5-2 or 5-3. Let me just see. It was 5-2, and Alcaraz won the final 5 games, so he should have dropped the set in that one. Then we saw him show up in the following match, end up beating Khachanov in 3, despite not getting broken. And then he played Rublev, and he ended up winning in straight sets with a breaker. Not really easy in either set. So Alcaraz has been good in the event. At the same point, though, vulnerable. As Joe was mentioning earlier, and as the lock from the last show suggested, the team total overs have been good, because there have been a couple of long sets regularly for Alcaraz in these matches. So even when he wins in straight sets, there's usually a 7-6 or a 7-5 in there, and that has been resulting in a bunch of overs for the sake of his matches. Now, Fees, we know, is a guy who recently added Ivanisevic to his coaching staff, so he's trying to improve his overall game. Looks good so far. I think Fees overall has done a good job of keeping the ball in play, picking his spots when it comes to aggression. The second serve, though, can be vulnerable, and I think Alcaraz could, in theory, jump on that. But at the same point, though, Fees has proven in the past he's not intimidated by Alcaraz. Yes, he is 0-2 lifetime. He did win a set in one of the meetings. He was looking pretty sharp in that one, and that was on clay. And we know Alcaraz has been amazing in the French Open for the last couple of years. So based on the overall head-to-head history, Fees might go down swinging in this one. Now, for the actual spread, I do think 4.5 is a lot of games for Alcaraz, for a guy who's been constantly involved in tie breaks. And even Fees have been involved in a bunch of breakers as well. So for the actual stats here, you're looking at there being a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 11 of Alcaraz's last 12 matches. And there's been a tie break in 6 of Fees' last 8 matches. So I can see one breaker in here. I do think the tie break's appealing at plus 145, give or take, or plus 148. I don't mind that. I think the team total is interesting for Alcaraz. Again, don't fix what isn't broken. If it keeps going over, then keep taking it until either the line adjusts to 13.5 or Alcaraz finally goes under. I don't mind just sticking with what works so far in the event, and I don't mind the over in this match. If you're looking at both guys who've been going to breakers constantly, Alcaraz has been broken a couple of times in this event, and I do think that Fees, with his return game, can find a couple of breaks of serve. Not just one. I think he actually could break Alcaraz a couple of times. Alcaraz might break him back, but I do think Fees will force at least one competitive set, kind of like our thoughts for Rublev. We thought Rublev might win a set. Didn't happen. But the logic on the team total and the over was Rublev usually in these matches against Alcaraz loses, but I'd say, once again, respectably. I think he will end up looking relatively sharp here. You could argue that Fils might look a little bit worse. So maybe instead of getting a 7-6, 6-4, you get like a 7-6, 6-3. I can see that happening too. But until Alcaraz actually dominates, and by dominates, I mean like winning 6-4, 6-3, until he avoids winning sets with a 7 that start in front of it, I'll keep going with the over. I'm not going to reinvent anything. I've been kind of doubting Fils over the last couple rounds, and he's making me pay. He's just been really solid, and he has been making me pay for it. But I do think that Fils will be able to keep this close for at least one set. I think that he will be able to keep this match close on the scoreboard for a little bit. Do I think he wins? Of course not. I think Alcaraz is going to win. We already have Alcaraz to win the event, as a reminder, because we keep sticking to the Bet Center and Alcaraz in every event together. So we have Alcaraz a plus 130. So no reason to really go for anything else because he's minus 770. So you are invested already for Alcaraz. But the point is, I think Fils will keep this somewhat close early, maybe not so much late. I can't see him fizzling out if he ends up losing in the first set. But I am going to go with Alcaraz to win in straight sets. I'm not going to bet that at minus 215. I'd rather go for the overs. I don't mind Fils potentially covering the 4.5. I think it will be close, but I think Alcaraz will do enough to win the big points and to probably win a breaker, which I'm expecting in this match. So give me Alcaraz 2-0, but I'll throw in an over, and I'll throw in potentially a tie break as well for plus 148. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the breakdown of the final in Doha. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they were brought to you by our sponsor, which is Underdog Fantasy. So they cover pick entries on almost every single sport, including tennis. Chance to win up to 5,000 times your entry. Also, they have a new offer to customers. Play just $5. Get $75 bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They've been great recently for college and for the NBA. So even though NFL season is over, you can still use Rhythm for college basketball and for the NBA. They've been really good. But either way, point is you can use the models, either build your own, you can copy off the leaderboard, or use the Rhythm House model, just give you plays directly. Couple of ways to experiment with model building in betting, and it's very easy to do so. So I think you'll like the options there for Rhythm. And if you want to go premium with your membership, use the code SGPN25 when you download the app for a quarter first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMM, code SGPN25 for 25% off your first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the final in Doha between Alcaraz and Fils. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. So I saw Joe when I jumped into the live stream mentioning the Alcaraz over keeps cashing. I agree. We took it for the team total for the lock last episode, and we will be having some serious deja vu because we're taking the same exact play at the same exact price. Alcaraz team total over 12.5 at minus 120. No reason to reinvent the wheel, in my opinion. There has been a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 11 of Alcaraz's last 12 matches. Said before, there has been at least one tie break in 6 of Fils' last 8 matches. The point is both guys have been magnets to long sets. Couple of scripts as well. Maybe even Fils steals a set. Who knows? But I do think getting a 7-5 or 7-6 based on Alcaraz having one in basically every round of the event does suggest that you might see a pretty good price here at minus 120. I understand it might be correlated to the moneyline price at around minus 700, but still, when this has been cashing in almost every single match for the last couple of weeks, including the Aussie Open, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. But for the actual serving numbers, both players are pretty close. So I do think you might end up seeing some holds here. Fils is winning 73% of his first serve points in this event, which is more than Alcaraz. Alcaraz is only winning 72%. So it's close, but both guys, once again, are holding at roughly the same clip, and both guys have been getting the same amount of first serve points won. Second serve, Alcaraz is 1 point better, 56% compared to 55%. But these serving numbers are almost identical. So based on that, I think you can see or expect at least one long set, which will continue the trend of Alcaraz overs. So give me the Alcaraz team total over at 12.5, minus 120 is my lock. For the dog, I am going to double down on the over to some degree. I found an even money on DraftKings. Give me the full match over 21.5 games at plus 100. So Alcaraz, we have seen a bunch of his matches go over recently. 3 of his first 4 matches in this event have gone over this number. Makes sense with a breaker involved in pretty much all of these matches. There have been a bunch of 7-5 or 7-6s, repeating the same point I made for the last play for the lock. Once again, 7-5 or 7-6 and 11 of his last 12 for Alcaraz, a breaker in 6 of Fees' last 8. I think we get at least one set that's long. I think that helps carry this match over the total. And 21.5 is not bad because you do have the cushion of a 6-3 after a 7-6 set. Point is, though, I will double down on the over. I think Fees will keep this match respectable. I think he'll lose in straight sets probably, but I do think expecting a similar script to what we've seen from Alcaraz in this event is the way to go. There's really no value on other options. Once again, straight sets is minus 215. He's minus 700 or so on the money line. I'll go for the over. I'll pick Fees to keep this match respectable and to not get embarrassed in the final. So once again, the lock and dog for the show. The lock's going to be an Alcaraz. Team total over 12.5 at minus 120. And for the dog, going with Alcaraz and Fees over 21.5 games at plus 100. Anyways, going to wrap it up for the show. Said before, but I'll say it again. We're back once again on Saturday for the title matches in Delray Beach and for Rio. So keep an eye out for that episode tomorrow. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye.